guys, welcome to another amazing episode of Roll or Die. This is the BOA special series that we're doing, and today we have Shawnee Boy, aka Sean LG, aka, because most people can't pronounce his whole name, I think that's why they call him the other two things, and part of his boyish good looks and life is good, but his name is actually Sean Le Gourrierec. Is that correct, my brother?
That's pretty damn good, man. That's as best I've heard it in a while.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I practiced it in front of the mirror all morning. Welcome to the show.
You nailed it. Good on you.
Thanks, man. You're at Absolute at the moment, laying canvas. Is that what you said to me before?
That's it. Yeah, I'm here with Sammy Colvin. He's doing a lift at the moment. We're just changing the surfaces on the ring and on the octagon.
Oh, nice, man. That's good. So you guys can kick some more ass in there. That's good, man. And
that's it.
Yeah, so we're here to talk mainly about BOA. Obviously, we want to get to know you a bit as well. I mean, you're just such a legend, man. You've been around the club for a long time and around the sport for a long time. But if we start with BOA and then expand out from there, that might be a good way to go. So BOA's just been delayed, as you know, till September. But what does the prep look like for you leading up to a major event like this? Like, do you change much about how you do this stuff?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you think about there's like 7 other guys on the show, so I try to categorize the ones that I'd use game plans with, and the other, like, for each person. So I do a little bit of that as it leads up. So focus a little bit on who you're fighting exactly.
Yeah.
But before all that, it's just mainly about being consistent. That's a hard thing, doing like hard trainings to do 6 to 7 in a row. Or like 6-7 days in a row. That's the major thing, to try and keep consistently on the mat. So, but as it gets closer, focusing on more of a game plan or a strategy for particular opponents. But we don't know who we're fighting yet. So in water, but that's the idea. Do a bit of homework.
Yeah, that's good.
And how about psychologically too, Sean? I mean, it's lockdown's pretty tricky time for all of us. How are you sort of dealing with that, as well as the prospect of BOA kind of in the future? A little bit further down the track, but yeah,
I guess sort of the whole lockdowns and thing, that's the annoying part, is the breaks of that, because it's so dependent on, are they going to lock us in or are they going to leave us out? So that's the annoying part, is that it can just all be taken away from times. But as far as just keeping in routine and training every day, nothing really changes there. So you just imagine that that it's all going ahead. It's better to stay.
And on game day, what's your do you have, because you've done some big international comps as well, like we might go back to some of those as well, but what's traditionally, like, what does a match day look like for you?
So I guess on the day of the event, I try to keep my schedule as like normal as possible, as it always is on every day. So I try to just stick to my usual routine in the morning of waking up a little bit earlier than usual. I get up about 6 in the morning, and then try not to look at my phone till about 8. And I mean, before all of that, I never really did. When I was doing morning classes in the city, it was the same kind of routine. I'd just be training through all that part. But now that I'm living a lot further out, I'll be still waking up early, but I don't begin training until 10 o'clock at St Kilda. So I usually get in a little bit earlier and train in there as well. But on a match day, just try to meditate a little bit more, since I've got a bit more time, and just like listen to my heart rate and my breathing a little more, get in tune with that, and just try to keep it as normal as I usually would. Some people, they either go to the training mat and train like they're competing. I try to go to competing and treat it like training. So try and make friends with the people on there, walk around a little bit normally, get used to the venue, those sort of things, normalize it.
Yeah.
And you have been on a previous BOA, you had a super fight a couple of years ago. I think, was it the first or second BOA that you were in that? How do you think BOA compares, like, internationally as an event?
Yeah, I think it's the best show I've been on by a mile. Just, it's so much put into it, and like, there's a lot more money in it, and it's being, I think, very well used to promote all the fighters. So I think for BOA as a show, it's just super organized. I mean, I haven't got to go on like a big Polaris or any of those other things, but it definitely has those same vibes, if it seems. Yeah, it's huge.
When you're competing, like, what's something, obviously without giving away, but actually, do you know, you won't know who your competitors are till the day. Have you faced off against any of the ones who you know are in there at the moment? Is there?
Yeah, for sure. There's I've competed against some guys like a long time ago. I competed against Rod Costa, a purple belt. Jeremy Skinner I've trained with a heap on the mat, so we know what each other are like. Tommy David, who just got at it, I've rolled with him before, and competed against him, and so some of those guys, I'd say half of them I've felt, and the others half I haven't.
Ooh.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, no, it'll be awesome. And something, just stepping away from Boa just briefly, you are, I guess, Tiago's first person that you've graded from white to black belt. So it's for our absolute listeners, that is a pretty special thing. So yeah, just talk us through that. So you actually started with Tiago way back in the day, and you got your blue, purple, brown, and then black from him. So yeah, it's a pretty special thing. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I was very, very lucky to have Tiago come into my life at the time he did. I think I was I might have been 20 or something like that, and pretty reckless kid. And I got into a lot of fights, just get mad at the world, like you see many young men. And I'd never heard of, I've seen jiu-jitsu in MMA and stuff like that, but I'd never seen someone who's devoted their life to it. And someone who's such a giver like Tiago, from the moment I met him, he's always made everybody feel super important. He has a very special thing there. So I was lucky to get to find him as early as I did. And from then, I bounced around at a few other gyms that he was coaching at, and just sort of followed him around and thought, this is a great mentor to be around. And he instilled a lot of great values on me, I think, from both as a competitor, but as a coach, which is predominantly my main income at the moment. And I'm very lucky to have a guy like that who's an exceptional leader. I don't know any other guy who can make his people feel as special as he does, but still run such a tight machine and produce great people, like, as well as competitors, but just great people like yourself, Kim. You know what I mean?
Thanks.
Anton,
did you hear that? He included me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I totally got that. I'm taking
just
notes.
by rank, I'll give it to Kim first, but then Anton's following very closely. So.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Kim's in the worthy category. Actually, that's a good note. How did you find Tiago in the first place? Was it like, for me, I found absolute, like, randomly. Like, I was just, a mate of mine said, I was moving from the Gold Coast back to Melbourne, and a mate said, do you want to do this? You want to do some striking with me? Here's a gym I've Googled. It was absolute. We went in there, and then I transitioned into BJJ. That was kind of my story. But how did you first find BJJ and Tiago, I guess?
Yeah. So how I first found jiu-jitsu. I wasn't in the country at the time. I was overseas traveling, and just became a fan of watching it. But when I came back, I was still playing football, and I always liked tackling people, but I didn't know you could make a whole sport out of just tackling people and then controlling them. And so when I met Tiago, I think I was training out of No Limits in Wantirna. And at that time, I was training with Dion Perkins, who was a purple belt coach. And I got to spend a lot of time on the mat with Peter Vella. He was also a very good purple belt and a great guy who sort of got me obsessed about the sport early on. I think when I felt Petey's guard, I was like, Jesus, you can't get through this thing. This is what good jiu-jitsu is. And then, Tiago came in. I was only maybe a 2-stripe white belt or something. And then when Tiago came in, it changed the game radically for me. I was like, I really became obsessed with it. Just with how much he knew. He had so much knowledge of something. Like, he's been a black belt longer than I've done jiu-jitsu. So he was just a terrific wealth of knowledge, and he just wanted to share it. He was always giving with it. And so, it was easy. It was an easy choice for me to stay with him the whole time. And it's been great.
Awesome.
And you're pretty involved with the Absolute Gym at Collingwood. I mean, you're there at the moment. It definitely has a really fantastic culture, which I think that you're a very big part of. It's one of the newer gyms of the Absolute family. What would you say to anyone that's listening that's maybe looking at starting up their own gym, about how to build a good culture, about how to make it feel very welcoming, very homely? Because I really feel that you're a very big part of the reason that Collingwood is the way it is.
Look, I appreciate that. I don't think it's all me. I'd say it's more. There's a lot more people involved in that side of things
Oh
than
yeah,
just
you're part of the
myself.
team for sure,
Definitely.
but definitely you've had a big part in it, 100%.
Yeah. As far as advice I would give, I mean, I've never had to start my own gym or anything like that, but I think, yeah, you really have to put, if you're going to start your own gym, you have to put the people are like you, the people who come to it as more important than yourself. Like you've got to make that your number one thing is to care and help people, 100%. And I think what's most important is that for me, I just keep going back to meaningful work and meaningful relationships. So as long as you can keep those two in mind the whole time, then things tend to work out. Money will come or whatever. But I think it's very important that you're you're treating people the way that that you wish to be treated is a very important thing. And yeah, I think that's it.
Right.
Encourage people to just keep coming on. Remember why you started, and yeah.
No, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful, especially given, I guess, what we're talking about and the fact that you are such a killer on the mat. It's really awesome that you've got this kind of like Jekyll and Hyde almost personality. So like off the mat and then on the mat, because like you're getting ready to go into an 8-man tournament to like destroy your opponents, but yet it's coming across to me just such a beautiful human being. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely. And what about like getting married, Claudia? Lovely, the amazing Claudia. You are again very inspirational to others because you're very open about your love across social media, etc., which is not all that common. I know a few people who do it, but I love that that's one of the things I love about you. But what does getting married or this super partnership that you've got going on, how does that impact, or how has that shifted the way that you compete? Because I really want to bring this back to Boa now. So like, what does that do when you step out there to have her in your corner, for example?
Maybe the old saying, happy wife, happy life. That one. That's about it. I just got to be aware, like you said, there's that two sides. When we're training, we're going hard. It's like hardcore problem solving, trying to kill each other stuff. So I have to know to put the tools down when it's time to come home, because it can be so, to be relaxed and cuddly is way different than to be trying to strangle each other and things. So, knowing when to be gentle with my, just both with my words as well, to just be more calm and relaxed. It keeps things happy at home. But when I go out, I've got to put all that stuff aside. And not often, like I kind of prefer, to be honest, competing alone. I don't really like having my wife come to my matches. I prefer just to go out, get it done, get its work. So just go out. For me, it's not really. I mean, when I was younger, I think I enjoyed the performance part of it. Being an entertainer and all. But now it's just like put the person in front of me and let me work.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Yeah, maybe just being a bit older and saltier, that you just want to get it done quick and get it out there and leave it. I don't want to stick around and, I just want to
I love that.
Make the work speak for itself.
She was at a lot of your matches early on. I do remember that. You know what I mean? Like I remember when you were doing MMA and stuff like that. She was. I'm not saying you're not doing MMA anymore, but the MMA matches I've seen you at, she seemed to always be there. But yeah, I do. Yeah, I wonder what that's like myself. To me, that sort of stuff does add pressure, and I think you're saying it kind of does in another way. It's like someone else you've got to perform to, or.
Yeah, or just someone who has to watch you get hurt. You don't want to see it.
Yes.
And I don't think she's that entertained by it, which I'm kind of glad. I don't want to. I wouldn't want a wife that's just like kill him and like watching UFC more than me. I don't think it'd work. It wouldn't gel. So I think part of my more nicer nature side's a lot to do with her. I think she's so they balance each other a little bit.
Beautiful.
Before we go back all the way back to bowl, but I definitely want to ask you just some questions about your traveling. You've traveled quite a bit and through Brazil. Yeah, you spent a significant amount of time. Can you tell us any funny stories or anything about your travels through Brazil?
Yeah, all the stories I probably wouldn't want to share on this, all the really funny ones. But definitely I was very lucky to go and visit Brazil when I was a blue belt. And I got to train in a few different places. My first training session in Brazil was in the jungle in Manaus, which is the same town that Jacare's from. It's a city of 2 million people in the middle of the jungle. So that was a pretty cool experience. And then I moved to Rio. I was there for a couple of months in Rio, living in a share house. I think it was called Connection Rio at the time. And it was just a bunch of gringos living together in a share house, grappling every day. And that was okay. But I think I missed the greater experience, which I eventually got when I went to Sao Paulo, where I had more of a country, smaller town experience in Indaiatuba, where Tiago's family was. And I was super duper lucky to get to live with Tiago's auntie, Adelaide. And she was incredible, even though she didn't speak a word of English and I didn't really speak a word of Portuguese. We had a really nice connection. It was nice. We got to sort of walk around every day and see things. And I was really a bit pushed outside of my comfort zone initially, being unable to communicate with the people. But it ended up that initial discomfort became, I think, a moment of growth where I became a lot more independent from it and had to struggle a little bit. But that was probably the greatest part of the whole trip, was sort of feeling a connection with the people more locally who were excited to see gringos. When you're in the major cities, they're kind of like, oh, here's just another gringo on the mat for us to beat up. But when you go out to the smaller towns, people all gather around you because they've only ever seen television shows of like Home and Away and stuff. And people are like, oh, you got to meet my friends from Australia. You might know them. I'm like, go. A shot in the dark, I might, But it feels a lot more, people are listening more intently and vice versa. You feel the same way. You feel very special when you're there. I feel very lucky to be there.
That must connect you to jiu-jitsu a lot more, like having kind of studied jiu-jitsu overseas. Like that, I imagine. I don't have a story like that. I've like traveled to compete and those sorts of things, but to actually immerse yourself in a culture and train, like how do you feel like that shifted your game?
Massively. Yeah. I feel like when I'm traveling, I feel like, because I don't have much money at all when I'm traveling, it's not like, you're getting by on a shoestring. You find out that your jiu-jitsu becomes your currency. When you go into gyms, that's where people want to know you, is what you can do well, is what they're interested in. So I found that like really fun when I went around Argentina. I stopped in a town of Mendoza, which was known for its wine, but not for its jiu-jitsu. And I still was lucky enough to find a little academy and do some training. And again, everyone would be speaking Spanish. And at the end of the class, they were asking some moves that I was doing. And my one translator was this little guy. He was only about 8 or 9 years old, but he'd watched MTV flat out and just learned English through that. And so he just spoke, really cool English, and was able to translate everything for me. And
wow,
it was just like it was a special kind of thing where people they're really interested in what you know and where you learnt it. And so that was it was kind of cool. And it just felt like, because the more and more time I invested in it, the more people. So I would train around Peru and things as a blue belt, and I got to go back more recently as a black belt and or a brown belt, sorry. And I just found myself getting invited to lunches and stuff afterwards with all the coaches, and everybody just wants to bring you around more and more. The longer you stick at it, the more valuable people find you to be around, and
wow,
and it's nice.
That's amazing. Amazing.
I think it's your turn, Anton.
Oh, okay, great. Awesome.
We take it in turns. Sean.
Yeah, we do. We have to bring some structure, otherwise we talk over the top of each other. But then, then we fucked it up, and now neither of us were talking. So that's
neither had a question.
Worse. Like what I'm keen to know is like how would you describe your style, like as far as competing? Like would you for people who've never seen you compete before, what are they going to see on BOA? Would you be rating yourself as more technical or a more aggressive style? Like how would you sum yourself up?
Yeah, I think a lot of people nowadays divide themselves into, are they positional grapplers or are they submission grapplers? And I'm trying to lean more and more towards submissions. So I try to just go for them as much as I can early on and let the positions work themselves out. But I mean, it's hard to say. Like when you're wrestling, you're only fighting for position. It's when it hits the mat that you've got to look for more subs. So I think that the biggest shift in my game of late's been to more just look for submissions flat out and not be worried if they don't work out. I rely more on pin escapes and guard retention as a fail safe to that, Whereas in the past, I don't think I had much good guard retention. And I found that whenever I'd go for a sub and end up on bottom and then just out losing by points or whatever, not getting it back on bottom. So I'm trying to modify my game more that if the chips are down and my spot's not good, I should still be able to submit from pretty bad positions.
That's awesome.
I find that's more entertaining. It's a harder route to victory, and it's probably much harder to remain consistently winning. But that's what I'm aiming for anyway, to be more known for just submission hunting.
Just going for it basically, and come what may. Is that what you're saying? It's like,
yeah.
Like you will kind of like harass a position out of them, basically, is what I'm hearing. Like you'll go for it and you will get position because there's a scramble happening, and you either will or you won't, but then you fall back on your guard if you don't. So
yeah, I think in the past I just sort of I try to just outwork them with an MMA mindset of just grinding them till they start like making too many mistakes and they're easy to beat.
Yeah.
Now at the higher levels now, guys can just go for way longer. Their conditioning's just way better. So it's kind of a gamble. If I want to wear them out, I might wear myself out, and then I'll be in regret that I didn't go hard enough for the sub. Nowadays I just work way harder for the sub, and it gives me a better inkling. I'll know at least at the end of the match, fuck, I couldn't submit the guy. I threw the kitchen sink at that person. I couldn't get a submission. That'll make me know, right? Yeah, that'll make me know like it's not worth the rematch. But there's matches where you just lose by a couple of points. You're like, man, if I'd have just gone for the sub more and pulled the trigger, I wouldn't be wondering what if.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Well, it's very entertaining for the crowd by the sound of it. That's going to lead to some very exciting matches with you, whoever you are against. And we touched a little bit earlier on like game day and what that looks like for you. But what about like in those moments just before you step on the mat, before you compete? You're such a calm person. Like what goes through your mind? Have you got any kind of things you can share about, like you visualize, breathing techniques? What do you do in those moments before?
Yeah, I'm always like I'm still haven't found like sometimes I come in too calm, too relaxed, and then other times I come in like firing. I try to look the same, I guess, each time I go in. But I think what we're all feeling is different every time we go in. But I'm playing around with different things, just talking to different competitors as well. Like I spoke to Levi Jones a lot in this training camp. He's been at training with us, and he speaks about having a mantra and visualizing a lot, and that can help him keep calm, and he'll say often that his second session in the day is just a lot of visualization, and that helps him prepare. So I'm trying to practice more on that part of the game. And other times when I'm too relaxed now, if I come in and I just don't feel nervous or anything like that, then I've got to start to, I've got to come up with ways to get myself angry and fired up. And I'm finding that's another thing I can play with. If you're just too relaxed and I haven't felt any nerves or jitters, I have to come up with something that's going to make me pretty switched on and fired. So, yeah.
And what kind of thing would you visualize if it's not too personal? Like, is it you standing on the podium, or is it other things? Is it like winning scrambles and getting is it a submission type? Like, I'm answering for you now, but what kind of things do you visualize?
Yeah, a bit of both, I guess. I however I think I can finish them. I visualize that a lot, and then I visualize just being firsts on each exchange. And so, I kind of maybe visualize a bit of the start of it and a bit of the end, and then whatever happens in between that, try not to think about too much.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, awesome. Was that your question, Anton, or is it?
Yeah. Oh, was that?
That's like a follow-on from mine, man. Come on.
Podcast, people. Yeah, well, I think we also touched on this earlier, but like BOA as an event, as a gateway to other tournaments, not even a gateway because it makes it sound like a stepping stone, but it is probably Australia's premier BJJ event. What are your thoughts about it as an event? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest one going on at the moment. I mean, my biggest goal at the moment is to win ADCC trials, which they have in December in Singapore, and then hopefully February next year. I'm not sure if it'll be Melbourne or Sydney. So they're the major things I train up for, and I'm mainly training for ADCC rule sets. But it's a good thing with the BOA. It's they're 10-minute rounds with IBJJF rules. But now that they've allowed heel hooks in them, then it makes it a lot more exciting. And as far as an event for itself. I'd say it's the biggest sort of one for exposure and things like that. And I much prefer the format of it where it's one mat and guys fighting off a position, rather than when you look at some of the bigger tournaments they have, there's just a bunch of mats going on. It's easily to be distracted, especially if you're coaching. There's people you got to run around and work out all the time. And even by the time you go to compete, it's not as much of a performance as you would when you go to BOA, where it's much more like an MMA show.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sean, for taking the time to do this. It has been tricky kind of at the moment, as we said, with the lockdowns and change of date and things like that. But man, you're just so calm. You're like probably the most calm person we've ever had on as a guest, and you certainly seem like the most calm on BOA. So that's definitely going to come good for you for sure. Like, yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing you out there on the big stage. Have you got any final words for any of your opponents or anyone in particular?
No,
You're going to bring that
really,
angry mode out now, or not yet? That might have to be the moments before.
Being myself, I suppose. That's
All good.
I just hope everybody can turn up and that we don't get locked down.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I understand you there, brother. Thanks so much. Much love to you, my man. You're the best. Check out the
Thank
rest.
Thanks so much,
we'll
guys.
get this out soon, and if you could share it, that'll be awesome. It'll help lift our audience, because everyone loves you, and look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, love you too. Thanks heaps, guys.
Cheers. See ya. Bye. Bye.
Bye.